So welcome everybody. Robin and I start chatting a little early and we were talking about, well, a nice thing to talk about before this presentation. And this may seem counterintuitive because as you know, this presentation is all about getting those fingers going. And let me tell you, for the person who's giving this presentation, her fingers can go. So she's the right person to listen to about this. But we're actually going to talk a little bit about how it's not mandatory that you be married to your metronome. And just today, I had a lesson with one of my favorite students. She is not on yet, but she probably will be soon. And she is working on Coventry Carol. She is going to be accompanying somebody from the Suzanne MacDonald book. And it's going really nicely. She has a very nice tempo, and she got to the end, and I had all these nice things to say. And she said, but it's not at 104 because I had never even looked. I've played the piece before. I have never even looked at the marking because, of course, a lot of us know some of the more popular carols. So I went into YouTube and we brought up the Westminster Choir from England and also the famous boys choir, the King George singers from England, and Coventry carols written by an Englishman. And the first tempo that we heard was 78, and the second tempo that we heard was 88, and she is somewhere in between. So I said, you're perfect. But the point is, I think sometime we just look at that metronome marking, and that's our total that's what's motivating us, and it shouldn't be. It should be the music. And after we listened to the choir for a little while, we both felt as if 104 would be almost sacrilegious in a way. For this music, if you listen to the words Coventry Carol, it's not happy. It is not joy to the world. So how
Well,
many of you? How many of
I
you?
go
Go
on.
ahead.
How many of you're gonna do in a quiz?
I was just going to say, how many of you can see that happening in your own mind sometimes? The piece sounds beautiful, you're doing a great job, but you're like, oh, the metronome marking says, so I have to. Yeah, I see Jan Dard shaking her head. Guilty. I'm guilty as charged too, although the older I get, the less guilty I am. So go ahead,
Well,
Robin. I'm sorry.
because when the students are young, they're going the opposite way. They play everything fast, 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 fast. Everything goes, goes, and goes. I'll never forget hearing Emily Mitchell playing the Sonata in G by Bach. And I had played that when I was little. In fact, Stacey Shames and I used to play it in Ireland as a duo. And of course, our only goal was who could play it the fastest, and the other one had to keep up. And so we would fly with it. And she played it slow. I mean, not even just she played it slow. And afterwards, and people asked, and as she said, because I like it. Well, how about that? You guys have bought these beautiful harps. You come to the different classes, you hang along with us. Wouldn't it be amazing if some of the music that you played just because you liked it, how you liked it, and what sounded good for you? I've got some songs that I play fast in some circumstances and, slow in other circumstances because sometimes you might not have 100 different pieces to pull from. So I love the pieces that can go either way. You can be playing it upbeat for a birthday party and then a little slower for a memorial service if it's supposed to be slow. I mean, just listen to the sound. Try to find what's pleasing. And I think the only caution would be if it's a song with words, know what the words are. And that can also guide you and make you say, ooh, I shouldn't be playing, riding down a roller coaster with the wind blowing in my hair slow. So you can use those type of things to decide what you want to do. And for the most part, especially if you're playing the Baroque music and music of the dead composers, well, they're not coming to your concerts anyway. Who cares?
So I see Gail, hello. I just told them what we talked about today with the choirs and the Coventry Carol. That was Gail. I also want to mention too, when Yolanda's Christmas Carol book came out, I got a copy of it. It was like the beginning of December, and at that point I was doing a lot of serious playing. I'm not as much anymore, but the Sasson, the Britain, all that stuff. And I really loved her first Noel. So I started to try and learn it, but I didn't really have enough time. So I took it to a gig and I just played it really slowly. I don't know if you know it. I'm sorry, I don't have it on my stand, but she has this nice little running boo da dee da dee da boo da dee da the first note, and I played it very slowly that first year. And you know what? It worked out just fine. And then the next year I had a little bit more time, so I played it a little bit faster. And then now I have it, well, maybe not totally up to tempo, but I'm not looking at the tempo marking, right? So just what we talked about in the beginning. And that's true with a lot of arrangements that aren't straightforward. Sometimes if you have straightforward joy to the world, the Lord, you feel like you have to do that. But I was finding that joy to the world wasn't fun for me until I found Sunita Stanislaw's arrangement. And it's fun. You can play it fast. You can play it slow. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Oh, and before I forget, a lot of you have been asking about, and some of you missed the last hang. We had a list of faculty and staff or staff favorites that we posted on our last hang, our favorite, some of our favorite arrangements. And Kate is going to post that again today if you missed that, just some of our favorite Christmas arrangements. So, all right. I am going now. I think it's pretty much time just about for today's trivia. And our prize today is a mug. Of course, my mug is in the other room. Katie, do you have a mug handy?
I don't have one, guys. I just want
I
to put that
can't
out
believe
there
I
that
still,
I don't have a mug.
I know, it's terrible. Well, maybe if you get today's trivia question,
Oh boy.
so you will get your official Hanging with the Harp mug. All right. I don't know if Marianne Flynn is on, but if you've won before, you're not allowed to try again because Marianne's won twice. There it is, our official Hanging with the Harp
I'm
mug.
gonna have to change my background so that you can actually see it. Hanging with the heart mug.
There we go. So here's today's trivia. This is a little harder than most of them, but it's all about playing fast today. So rumor has it, and it is a rumor, there are some people that dispute it, and some people claim that they have heard this from Alice Shalafu, but rumor has it that Carlos Salcedo's metronome was not calibrated correctly. I'm not sure calibrated is the correct word, but you know what I mean, which would explain the nearly impossible tempos that are marked for some of his original compositions. This could be just wishful thinking for us mere mortals who struggle to keep up with Carlos. But here's today's question. Which of Salcedo's composition has his fastest tempo marking? This is a quarter note equals 192. And there's a little hint for you here. I know. I saw a lot of gasps there. The title of this prelude gives it away. All right, so I'll say that one more time. Rumor has it that Carlos Salcedo's metronome was basically broken, not calibrated correctly, which would explain some of his near impossible tempos that are marked for a few of his original compositions. As I said, this is wishful thinking for us mere mortals who just would love to keep up with Carlos and have never managed to do that. Today's question, which of Salcedo's composition has his fastest tempo marking, which is quarter note equals 192. And here's a hint. The title of this prelude gives it away. So speaking of giving it away, Robin's going to take it away and introduce today's guest. So many of you know her. Just about everybody in the harp community who has ever ventured out of their practice room knows Miss Anne Sullivan. So here's an introduction from Robin.
And when we talked about intro and everything, and I was starting with the bio, and I was about to say, Anne Sullivan began playing the harp she just turned green. So see, there she goes again. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you that Anne Sullivan, we read the bios to try to figure out what we're going to say about people besides our personal knowledge. And the thing that I didn't necessarily know, I knew she had been a professor at Curtis School of Music. I know that she's a professor at Delaware State University, but I didn't know that she was a professor of theory. And once I read that, it all clicked, because Anne has to be the theoretical harpist, and she ties everything together in that kind of vein. She's so interested, not just in being this very smart, really gifted player, but in sharing that. So with her harp mastery, she just, to me, like, makes space for any type of harpist. And the thing that I like about, and the reason I want to say something about harp mastery, is you can all go to that website, and here's how I decide like who I'm going to study with or what I'm going to do. I always look at the blogs, and you can click on the blogs for free. You don't have to pay anything. If you click, the stuff will come up. There's titles like your 5-day plan to better musical awareness and flowing arpeggios, start from a ripple, and all this stuff that is right there to access and start to think, wow, I'd really be interested in knowing that. So my intro to Anne might be like a promo, but we like to plug our artists because we're so grateful that they come share time with us. But what she does for the harp community as a whole is really magnificent. So, Anne,
Gosh,
I won't say you
Robin.
started at 12 with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the most beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. That was really, really sweet. And I have to say that Heart Mastery for me started as an accident and became an adventure and turned into a mission. So, and it's all about that harp happiness thing. It's all about being able to play the music that you want the way you want. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, because a lot of us want to play fast or faster. And so this is where I can tie this in with what MJ was saying a moment ago. It's not about a number. It's not about 192 or 120 or 104 or 60. It's not about a metronome number. It's not about even playing fast. It's about the possibility. It's about being able to do what you want to do, to not feeling like the tempo is holding you back or you're holding the piece back. There's almost always another way to work it. And I'd like to start today with just a story that just before this session here, I was teaching, and I was working with a student who's preparing a piece for orchestra. And she's an adult, she's playing in a community orchestra, and there's a part that is too fast for her at the moment. And we were working with, she was doing all these techniques. I mean, I have plenty of practice techniques I can throw at my students, and many of you are here and you know that, but she'd been doing all that stuff and it still wasn't working. And so we did it's not a last ditch attempt. We did my favorite thing, which is to take the metronome and put it at the tempo we know she's going to have to go. I mean, this is playing in orchestra. We don't have a choice, right? We can't say, well, I really prefer Coventry Carol a little bit slower with a more meditative feel. We can't say that in orchestra. It's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Conductor, I'm not feeling it this way. That's not a choice for us. So she has to work to his tempo. So we put the metronome on his tempo and we went playing. We just did it. And that's actually my personal motto, and it's going to come up a couple of times here in different ways. If you want to play fast, however fast means for you, whatever the context is, you have to play fast. You just have to do it. But there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about between where you are now when fast isn't working and where you need to get and how to get there. So that's why at the top of today's PDF, I put that wonderful Chuck Yeager quote, because to my mind, it really says it all, right? It's just before you break through the sound barrier, the cockpit shakes the most. Now, I can't imagine being in an airplane and having the cockpit shaking and being, the feeling like the whole aircraft might break apart as I break the sound barrier. I can't imagine that. But the thing is that just that on the way to playing at whatever tempo you want to play, it's going to be messy. It's going to break apart. It's going to not explode. You're not going to die, thank goodness, right? And Chuck Yeager survived his adventures in that, that arena too. But it's going to be messy, and we have to accept the mess. So a lot of what I'm talking about today is going to be about that kind of acceptance. So I'm so glad for this chance to talk about it because I think it's so important. So,
Excuse me, Anne,
yes.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 minute. Apparently, there may be a problem with one of the PDF links on one of the emails that went out. So Katie will put it in the chat. Will that work for you, Katie, to put that in the chat, the link for the PDF?
I think it is in the chat.
It is in there. Oh, she already did it because she's up one
It's
step
right
behind.
there.
Okay,
Mm.
I'm so
Yep. So the PDF will, I'm just walking right down the PDF today. So it should help you at least take notes and organize and remember what we're talking about. So if we're trying to speed ourselves up, why might we want to do that? Well, let's take it out of the realm of, meeting a metronome marking, because we might not have to do that. But if we're playing with other people and they have tempo requirements, like singers who might need to breathe. I loved what Robin said about remembering the words of a song so that your tempo is appropriate. That's important too. So there may be some parameters that we have to meet. And maybe one of those parameters is our own need to have the music flow in a particular way. So we're meeting a musical desire that is our own, right? It doesn't have to be about an external directive here. So the good news is that I am going to tell you how I approach trying to play faster. And I'm going to give you everything I can in the short time that we have today. But the bad news is that I can't make you do it. I can give you the permission that you need to work through the challenges that happen on the way to play fast. I can give you the reassurance that the mess that you encounter on the way to your goal tempo, whatever that is, the mess will sort itself out, and that's part of the process, and that it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. But you have to take the steps. And hopefully what I'm going to talk about today will help you take those steps. So let's look at those three traps that hold us back from playing at the tempo we want to play. The first one I call the 4-minute mile fallacy, right? It was believed until Roger Bannister proved everybody wrong. It was believed by scientific people even that human beings could not run a 4-minute mile. They would explode. Human beings could not do it. The human body could not take it. It just wasn't going to happen. And then, you know what? Somebody did it. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates were opened, and it wasn't just a 4-minute mile, but the times kept dropping. Because all of a sudden, somebody proved it possible. Now, to tie back to what MJ said a moment ago about Salzedo and his metronome, frankly, some of the pieces that that people complain about as being, oh, that metronome marking is way off. If you hear some of the old Salzedo recordings, he's playing it at that speed. So his metronome might not have been exact, and it's quite likely that he was. I've heard this suggested too, that he was raising the tempo in order to raise the standard for his students so that they would keep striving. But frankly, he could play that fast. So, but that doesn't mean you have to. We're going there, right? So, but once that possibility is presented that, oh yeah, look, this would be possible, then we can begin to play faster. So I want you to consider what you believe about your not being able to play fast. If this is a problem for you, do you think you're too clumsy? You started too late. Your fingers are too old. They just don't move fast enough. You can't read fast enough. And I'd like you to challenge each one of those. You set your upper limit. I mean, we all have, constraints. Do my fingers move as fast as somebody else's? No. Do my fingers move as fast as they used to? Now I'm at this advanced age and I'm, listening to these 20-year-olds and stuff. No, they don't. But you know what? I can make them go faster than they want to. I can push them. I can move them. Are there constraints? Yeah. But which ones are real and which ones are you setting for yourself? So please bear in mind that what you're accepting as fact, I can't play this fast. I can't do this. I was talking to my student today, right? The one I was working with today, she said, I just can't do those chords. They won't go that fast. And you know what? By the end of the lesson, that's where she was working at the tempo she needed to go. Were they completely correct? No. Was she getting them more correct every time? Yes. So be aware that you set some of those upper limits for yourself and see what you can do to break through. So that's one trap. Now, the second trap is the cold water deception. This is, that like you go to the ocean, you can tell I'm from Philadelphia because we don't go to the beach or anything. We go down the shore. And then when we're at the shore, we go to the ocean. So we go to the ocean and it's cold. It's cold. And you can put that first toe in and then you shriek and you run back. And then finally you get wet up to your knees. And then finally you get wet, just above your knees. And every increment is painful. But you see those little kids and they go and they just dive right into the cold water. And you know what? The water feels cold when it hits your warm skin, but you adjust. Once you're wet all over, it stops feeling quite so bad. I mean, it's still cold, but it's different, isn't it? And that's what I'd like. It's the best method I have to tell you not to inch into it and not to be afraid of that next toe in the water. Let's just try it. I'm going to bring my PDF a little closer so I can read it. There we go. Let's just try it a little bit faster. Not a little bit. Let's try it a lot faster. Let's find out what it's like if we actually play it at the speed we think we want to play it. Is it a mess? Does it fall apart? Yeah, probably. Okay, but let's try it. Instead of one toe at a time, heading toward that, that goal that's far off. Oh gosh, I'm still at 60 and I want it to get to 100 and 63 is still really hard. Well, let's work in bigger increments. Let's take the plunge. And you'll see that later down the PDF. We'll talk about how to do that. And then the last trap that I want you to try to break free from, I'm going to give you permission to get out of it right now. That's the make no mistakes mistake. Because on the way toward getting something to the speed you want it to go, you're going to make mistakes. And you can't expect that when you change the base condition that you're playing to. Let me back up one half sentence. This will be helpful. So when you get something all nice and neat at that nice comfy tempo, what you have done is align a lot of coordinations. The way you're reading the music, the way your fingers are moving, the way you're thinking about the music, the way you're hearing it in your head, all of those things are coordinated. And they're working together, a well-oiled machine. Okay, so it's 44 to the quarter note, but it's all working together. But if you try to take that 44 quarter note to the quarter note machine and take it to 50, you have introduced an element that does not belong. That machine will not be well-oiled. Everything's going to have to readjust. Your reading speed is going to have to change. The place you're looking, when you're looking, what you're thinking, how you're hearing about it, what you do, everything is going to change. So don't expect that you can, change one element in this well-oiled machine and still have it work well. Everything's going to have to readjust. Which in fact is why I think that you might as well just get the pain over with and make a big adjustment right away. If everything needs to readjust, let's not do it for every metronome notch. Let's take a big step and let's get there. But just realize that it's going to be messy. It's not going to be beautiful and correct and clean and neat at every stage along the way as you try to raise the tempo. And you need to give yourself the permission, because I just have, give yourself the permission to make those mistakes. What is that about? Can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. We're going to be breaking some eggs. But hopefully our omelet will be done and in short order. So give yourself permission to make the mistakes, understand that they're part of the process, and let them sort themselves out. Don't fret about them. And by the way, making mistakes as you're speeding something up doesn't mean you've destroyed all your really careful work. I know we work so hard to try to make everything exactly right. And because you've made everything exactly right, and then you've created this giant mess when you're going faster, it doesn't mean you've lost all that hard work. It just means you're having to change, you're having to readjust, you're having to put things back together in a new way. And you can always refresh yourself, right? By saying, okay, all right, I've worked and it's fast and it's a mess and it sounds terrible, but I'm going to back that back up to a comfy tempo now, where I can relax and I can play everything the way I want, the way I used to. It'll all be nice and neat. You can do that. And it's healthy for your fingers and your mind and your body, and it'll lower your blood pressure again. You haven't lost those things by creating the new tempo and letting things be a little bit messy. You haven't lost those. So don't be afraid of those mistakes. Just let them happen and let yourself grow a little bit with it. So with that in mind, I have 2 practice strategies that I want to share with you today. So I'm watching the answers come in for the trivia stuff. That's kind of fun. So, okay, let's talk about 2 speed up practice strategies so that you can play that quarter note equals 192 piece. And by the way, I couldn't do it for you today, but the particular piece we're talking about was one of the pieces that I did for my audition at Curtis Institute when I went to study there. That was one of the pieces I did. And yes, I did it at that metronome mark. And in fact, I haven't played it now in probably about 10 years, but that is the speed I play it at. And it's a wrench to get it from practice stage to performance stage, to get it from the practice tempo, which seems so far from that 192 finish tempo, but to get it there, perhaps this is one of the pieces that started me on this journey. You can't inch that up. That's too far. If you're playing it at 100 and you need to go to 192, that's crazy. You can't get there. 104, 108. Notice how I know my metronome notches. Nobody's metronome does that anymore, right? But mine does. So, 100 to 140. Whew, okay, but at least I've made a big step. So 192, yep, I can play it there, or I did, but I didn't get there the slow way, or I'd still be doing it. So, okay, let's talk about the tempo pyramid. This is one of my favorites. This is one that my students feel pretty comfortable with, and it's sort of a grown-up version of the one notch at a time thing, because we're not doing one notch at a time. We're going to do a much more intentional strategy that's geared toward letting you play something comfortably and play it well and get to that place where you want to be. So all the directions are on the PDF, but I am going to go through them with you because they're, I want you to, and then we'll see if you have questions about it too. So in the tempo pyramid, there are 5 tempos that you're going to choose. One of them is going to be your comfy tempo. And I really do mean that. The tempo at which you're breathing normally, right? You're relaxed. Everything goes the way it's supposed to go. You feel in control of things. You get, most of the notes, most of the time. It's a comfy tempo. You like it. That's a good thing. Then things get a little bit less comfy. We're going to have a medium tempo and a fast tempo, and then an optional bonus tempo. And then we're having a halfway down tempo. So now I've given you numbers and percentages. These are not written in stone. Be very approximate with this, but I wanted to give you an idea because it's helpful, I think, to have sort of, a real gauge so that it's like, well, okay, this sounds like, a really nice idea, but what is she talking about? So hopefully this will give you an idea. So to do the tempo pyramid, you're going to start at your comfy tempo. Then you're going to play it at your medium tempo, which is about 25% faster, give or take. Then you're going to play it at your fast tempo, which is about another 10% faster than that. If you're really brave, you'll add another 5% on, and you'll do that bonus tempo. And then we're going to finish up by slowing things down again to a halfway tempo. And it's a split between your medium tempo and your comfy tempo. We're not going to let you go back to your comfy tempo today. You're not going to go that far down, but you are going to go below your medium tempo. And you're going to do all of this kind of like the ghost that visited Scrooge on Christmas Eve. You're going to have this all happen in one practice session. This is what you do in one day. So you're going to play the piece at your comfy tempo one time. Ah, you say, I love this piece, you say. Great. And maybe you don't play the whole piece. Maybe you play a page or a passage or a section or whatever you need to work on. Doesn't have to be the whole piece. Then we're going to take it and play it at the medium tempo, about 25% faster, and you're going to do that twice. Then we're going to go up to that fast tempo. And by now, you know, your heart's going like this, and you're like, oh, I'm playing all these wrong notes. But we're going to do that twice. And if you're really brave, you do that bonus tempo once. That's optional. You don't have to do that. And then we're going to play it one last time at your halfway tempo. So in the course of this little practice plan, you're playing once at comfy, twice at medium, twice at fast, once at bonus tempo if you like, and once at medium. So either 6 or 7 times you're going to be playing through this passage or page or piece or whatever it is you're working on. But if you do this plan and you do it for about a week, what you will notice, and it might not even take that long, what you will notice is that the top tempos, you may not be playing much better at those tempos, although you should be some better, but they're not going to scare you anymore. And that is huge. To just have the fear of the speed taken away from you is a big thing. But you will probably find within that first week, or at the end of it for sure, that you're able to raise each one of those tempos a notch or two. And you're going to get ever closer to your goal tempo. Now, what's really nice is if you can take that fast tempo or the bonus tempo, and I like the fast tempo for this, make that your goal tempo. So that, you know, okay, well, if I want it to be at 100, then, you know, kind of step it back and see where your comfy tempo would be. So before we go into this a little bit further, let's look at some of those sample metronome plans that I gave you. This is how I would divide the numbers out. So if I were playing the piece at 40, if that were my comfy tempo, then 50 would be my medium tempo, and about 56 my fast tempo, and 63 maybe my bonus tempo. Maybe that would be ambitious for bonus tempo. Maybe it would just be 60 or 58. I mean, you can fudge these numbers a little bit, right? It's your piece. This is just an idea. Then come back to that halfway tempo, right? Or come back to the medium tempo is what one of the things I have here. Come back to the medium tempo. I think I forgot that. Okay. And then come back to the halfway tempo. It's not an exact science. You know, go ahead and skip that last time at the medium tempo if you want. Not a big deal. But so if you really want your piece to go at 60, then this is a great plan to use, because 56 as a fast tempo is almost there. 63 as a bonus tempo is that one notch above. That's that little bit of headroom. It's that adventuring into the tempo realm where you want to be. And so that tempo pyramid going up and then back down, but not all the way down, is a very powerful way to do it. It just steps right into it. Now, I've given you a few other sample metronome plans that work this way. And going along with what I just was hinting at a moment ago, if you want, figure out what your goal tempo is. You want this piece to go at 104. You want the piece to go at 100. Then back down from there. If 100, if that's my fast tempo, then if 100 is my fast tempo, then probably my medium tempo might be around 88 or 92, and my comfy tempo would probably have to be around 69 maybe. So if I'm not up to 69 yet, then my tempo pyramid isn't going to go all the way to my goal tempo. And that will tell you how to step up the tempo as you work on it. You can also do the pyramid in reverse. When you get less afraid of that fast tempo for whatever it is you're doing, I urge you to do the reverse pyramid. Start with that fast tempo and then work down to your comfy tempo and work back up. And you can even alternate days if you like. But working a plan like this will give you results much more quickly than if you just try to step into that tempo slowly, if you do the cold water plan, right? This will give you results really quickly because it's getting you where you want to go now. And then you'll find that after just a little while, you really don't need all those pyramid steps. What you really can do is just start working right around the tempo where you want to be, give or take a notch or two, and work right around it in that slightly more comfortable way. So you can do that. The pyramid, though, is a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of patience, and it takes a little bit of faith that it's actually going to work and that you're not destroying all your hard work so far. Believe me, you aren't. It will work. So, and you can always step back from it anytime. You can say, today is not a tempo pyramid day. Today is just a comfy tempo day. The same way that you might want to just wear your PJs all weekend, right? You can play a comfy tempo all day and refresh it. And that's fine. Now, let's talk about breaking, about the plunge. The plunge. This is the cold water plunge. Find that goal tempo, whatever it is. And if your goal tempo is 104 and you're still playing your piece at 60, I don't care. Put that metronome on 104 and play through the entire piece at that tempo. Stop and start as many times as you need. It can fall apart. It can be a mess. Just do it. Because you know, once you've done it, you don't have to worry about it again. You know what it's like. It's going to get better. Okay, it's going to be a mess right now, but you don't have to go any faster than that. And it's only going to get better from here. And then once you've done that tempo, back your metronome up a little bit and play it a couple more times. Back it up again, play it another time or two. And you'll start finding a tempo that you can get pretty, you know, okay, I can do a lot of the notes at this tempo. And it's probably quite a bit above the tempo that you think you're playing the piece at now. So this is a great way to just get over that hump, break that speed barrier, Chuck Yeager style, get in there and do it. And to not worry about it and then just back out of it. Whew. And maybe you don't want to get up to that tempo again anytime soon, but maybe once a week you do. Maybe every few days you do. Because the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. You just have to persist a little bit, which is why I wanted to share with you the breaking the barrier formula. It's just those 5 words. It's not a big deal, but all of them are important, I think. I want you to release. Oh, did I do just 3 words for you? I probably did just 3 words. I should look at my PDF. Oh yeah, we just have, 4 words today. Okay, I changed my mind. Relax. Relax is good, right? You can't play fast if you're tense. Your fingers have to be relaxed. There we go. This one just came in. Can you suggest ways to relax your fingers when you're playing fast? Yes, play softly. We have to give up something to start playing fast. And one of the things that we can't give up is relaxation, because to play fast, we have to be relaxed. You can't go fast if you're tense, right? Everything's too tight. It just doesn't work. You need to relax. So one good way to do that is to bring the dynamic way down to pianissimo, very softly. Now still move your fingers. Don't, piddle on the strings. Just play very softly. But that very soft dynamic will allow your fingers to relax. It's the best way I know to do it. Do keep breathing. That's the other way. Also, when you're doing that and you find yourself getting tense, stop. Just stop right there in the middle. Take a moment to let everything relax and then start again right from where you left off and start from that place of relaxation. So the relaxing part is just really important. And that's the way I would do it. I actually have used this for years. I was taught this by my teacher, that learning to relax while you play is really important. Learning to breathe that tension out of you and release it down through the soles of your feet and all the way out. And the way you can start that process is by, when you feel yourself tense up, don't stop playing, but just play more lightly. Bring that dynamic way back, relax it. Don't stop playing, just relax, soft, low, smooth, and then keep going. You know, when you're relaxed again, when things are nice and loose, you can come back to a regular dynamic. You can I've saved myself in performances that way, when all of a sudden, you know, the nerves have built up and the tensions build up and my right hand just doesn't want to do that oscillating pattern anymore. It's like, okay, lighten it up, just keep going. I can't stop. Lighten it up. And then after a measure, two, a line, whatever it is, it's like, okay, yes, I'm back. I can continue. Kind of like spelling yourself while you're running. Okay, so relaxing is first. I would like to tell you also about relaxation. Just don't try so hard. Don't try so hard. It's just harp playing. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be music, right? So don't try so hard. Then release, right? Tension is the enemy of speed. It's the enemy of your sound. It's the enemy of anything musical. So learn to release that tension. Then decrease the dynamic as you increase your tempo. If you're working on the tempo pyramid, every step up for speed should be a step down for dynamic, so that you can stay relaxed and you can feel a little bit less pressured as you're bringing the tempo up. And then just remember to laugh, because it helps. It's just not that big a deal. It's a mess. Okay, it was a mess. That's great. It'll be better and we can move on. So that's really what I wanted to share. They're my best strategies. But please remember, you are in charge of your speed. Whether you play slowly, whether you play fast, you're in charge of the choice, and you're in charge of the method you use to get there. I just like to use the fast ways to get there. So, but that's, because that's where the fun is. If that's where you want to get, then get there. So that's the essence of the tempo pyramid and the taking the plunge. And that's what I had to share with you. Now, I did put some links on the PDF, and I'll take 1 second to tell you about those, because the first link is to a podcast episode. Robin mentioned my blogs, but in May, I started a podcast. So we still have all the blog posts up there for you. And there are years worth. I started blogging in 2012. So and I blogged every week. Actually, the first year I blogged twice. I blogged 3 times a week the first year. So there are a ton of blog posts. It came up in a family discussion the other day. We were talking and I was saying, well, I was going to have my sister write something. And my stepmother said, oh, yes, that's right. She's the writer. And I thought, no, wait a second. In terms of sheer output, I win that one, but that's okay. I would rather have her write this anyway. So this is good. But the podcast is also there. You'll find the link to that on our page. You can subscribe. It comes in to your phone or whatever. So the podcast is there. And the link there is to the podcast episode that inspired this particular talk tonight. We do have a webinar coming up next Monday. You can find out all about that. And we'll be opening our My Heart Mastery membership next week. I think it always opens the end of November, so it should be next week. So you can be on the first to know list for that too. So I put those links there for you, but I'm ready. Oh, that's very sweet, Arlene. Thank you. She says the podcasts are wonderful to listen to.
And this is really, really great. We'd like to ask anyone, if you have a question, type it in the chat. We have a couple more minutes to answer some specific questions. We're also checking Facebook. We haven't forgotten you guys there. And we just want to thank you. And you're talking, I turned on Facebook and it ignores my silent button. Do you see that? No, stop talking. Okay. Facebook, I leave that to Katie if you've got any questions. I can't get mine to go silent. But we really, really, this is so good. And we've got this is wonderful. And thank you. You know, these are tools. And I think if you were to ask MJ, myself, and Katie why we do this hang or what we wanted you guys to get out of this hang, it's just to get some more tools. I mean, there's so many ways. If we all baked, say, a pound cake right now and held it up, they'd all look different. They'd all taste different, but in their own places, they'd be delicious. Well, maybe not mine, but they'd be delicious, you know? And so these are just tools, and you take what works for you and you leave the rest. And I am just excited that Atlanta lets me be a part of this because, okay, are there some fingerings that are better than others? And specifically when you're dealing with scales, from Kimberly Tucker.
Oh gosh, Kimberly, you know what? Here's the quick answer, no. They're all good because fingerings are situational. Fingerings are personal. You know, I could lay down, I could give you a ground rule like, well, scale fingering should be connected, except for that time when you're going to do the whole scale with your second finger. I could tell you that every time that, you know, a scale fingering for a 2-octave scale is going to be 4, 4, a group of 4, a group of 4, a group of 3, and a group of 4. Well, except for the time when it makes more sense to start on your third finger. So, and I adore playing scales with different fingerings because it increases my finger flexibility. Like I love playing 3-finger scales, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. I love playing 2-finger scales, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. My favorite is playing scales without my thumbs. 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2. It is a blast. It is so much fun. It's just, you know, it's just a riot. What can I say? So are there some fingerings that are better than others? I wish I had you know, I could just give you an answer that was, oh, well, of course, it's always this one. But there isn't an answer for that. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to chime in here because my very first job was with the Richmond Public School System. And I thought I was really ready for this right out of college. You feel like you're ready for anything. And my very first class was a 6th grade class. And I had one student who was about 5'2", and her fingers were about this short. And then in the same class, I'm not making this up, there was a girl who was almost 6 feet tall, and her fingers were longer than mine. So when Anne says it's personal, it's also the shape of your hands, the length of your fingers. Sometimes you have to make adjustments. Sometimes it's easier for some hands, nothing to do whether small or big, or sometimes it's easier for smaller hands. But it's definitely depends on the player, the piece, and the situation. Wouldn't you say, Anne?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And Kimberly, thank you for that extra smiley, grinny face because that's you know, that's the best we can do for you. But yeah, it's all about your hands and your situation. It's tempo related too. So, you know, there are lots and lots of possibilities. And truthfully, that's why we practice exercises. It's why we practice these things so that we have this entire repertoire of fingerings built right into us. So if there were only one way to do things, there would be only one kind of music. That's what I think.
Well, Anne, we can't thank you enough. We'll give you a silent round of applause.
Well, thank you for having me here. Thank you so much, you and Robin and Katie. And I just thank you so much for letting me have the chance to pontificate and to just share this.
Well, and I also, so we can't leave, of course, without giving you the answer to the trivia question. Somebody got it pretty early on. Now, sometimes, I mean, the computer is a lovely thing, but I thought this one would be a little bit harder to get. But the answer is whirlwind. I actually was going to give credit to anybody who also came up with flight, just because I think that would be a good guess, but that one was a mere quarter note equals 152. So Katie will take care. Katie, you want to tell the winners for, we have one winner on Facebook and one winner on Zoom. Oh.
Yes, so for Zoom, the first person to say whirlwind was Rachel. The last name is cut off, Christensen, yes. So, and then on Facebook, we didn't have anyone say whirlwind, but we did have somebody say flight. So that would be Meredith Mancini.
And she would get a bag. She'll get the consolation prize. I know Meredith. Hi, Meredith. So she gets a bag. That I think that's a really good guess. We also want to talk to you a little bit about the December hang. You know, a lot of times when we schedule these, and I have to tell you also the finger agility blog post that Anne was talking about was why I thought of her for this, because I was right after we had our lovely Mallory give a talk about Christmas and starting music. We thought hopefully you all started it last month and now you're ready to move along. So we definitely timed that for a reason. But next month, we want you all to come, and you don't have to do any work. You don't have to pay attention. The only thing you'll have to do is follow the PDF for the concert. We are inviting 3 people that have presented this year, along with 1 person that will present in January. Sunita Stanislaw, Amanda Whiting, and Megan Matheny all did a presentation this year, and all of them were fabulous. And then in January, to give us some motivation to get the year started, we're going to have Grace Browning. I don't know if you know Grace, but she has energy almost like Anne. I mean, just unboundless energy. She's just a ball of fire and plays like nobody's business. She's a fabulous teacher. But back to December, our 4 guests each have a completely different style. I think you might remember Megan talked about her Andre's book, where Andre's Christmas, or what's the title? The title, Katie, I'm forgetting. A Christmas with Andre, with Bernard. Sorry, Katie will tell us that. I think or
And I
Bernard's
play
Christmas.
them and I don't even know. I'm like,
I'm sorry, but she takes some of Andre's works and kind of meshes them, melds them, weaves them into Christmas carols, and they're beautiful. And then Amanda has all her nice jazzy stuff going on. Sunita has a style all her own, just a brilliant way of making music, and that we can all play and all sound good, which I love. And Grace will be doing some of the heavy hitting stuff. She'll probably do a couple of the salzedo arrangements that none of us actually have time to learn at Christmas. But that will be in December, the 3rd Tuesday, which I don't have in front of me. It's late. I think it's December 21st. And not only that, they will be giving their lovely concert, just as we did last year. You will also get a special PDF with their favorite Christmas holiday treats, or holiday treats that they bake or make, and a little story to go with them. Everybody really seemed to enjoy that last year. So you 4 unique styles. You can just sit and relax, grab your cocoa. It'll be a little longer, probably take about an hour, but I think we'll all be ready for that on December 21st.
And,
I think
and Megan's
hat contest or something. Like, can't we all dress up and
We'll
we
think
vote on?
Robin's going to come up with something. We'll
Well,
have
like,
something.
the crazy is like, or just come with what you baked, and just, or with your wine, your prosecco, and let's just have a party right on the Zoom until we can do it in person together. Let's have some fun. And yes, I'll vote.
I just want to remind you too that we do Zoom, we have 100-person limit. So if you are on Zoom, and this is a kind of a popular hang, it was last year, if you get on and we're at our limit in Zoom, just go over to Facebook. No limit on Facebook. So just a little heads up about that. So one more thank you to Anne so much, and thank you to all of you. We wouldn't be here without you. We really enjoy this. We were talking about next year. I was like, well, I mean, are we doing it next year? And Robin just kind of gave me that look like, yes, we are. So we will continue this through 2022.
Hey, and Katie, you were saying something, Matheny.
Yes, so the Christmas book from Megan Matheny is Bernard's Christmas. It's available on the Virginia Harp Center website. So that's vaharpcenter.com.
Tacky sweaters. I love it. Maybe that's what our competition will be. That was a suggestion. That could be it. All right, then everybody has to show their face and their sweater. So thank you. Yeah, thank you again. Round of applause.
Thank you, Anne.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's fun.
Bye, everybody. See you next month.
Bye-bye.